Good evening. This evening is our monthly meeting of the Board of Adjustment. We are committed to a transparent process and encouragement of public comment during our meetings. We'll be accepting testimony from all parties. If you wish to testify on any particular petition before us this evening using the Zoom platform, please use the raise hand feature. You can raise your hand at any time and we will recognize you at the appropriate time for the presentation of evidence for each case. If in person, please hand staff your speaker's card. Senior Planner Travis Newberry will be monitoring the hybrid meeting and will be asked to provide names of those individuals that wish to speak. I believe Mr. Newberry has a few cards, so please get those cards to Mr. Newberry if you plan to speak in person. I'd like to call the meeting of the City of Wildwood's Board of Adjustment to order. The members present today are Bob Morris, board member, Kevin Lux, board member, Jim Van Nest, board member, Arnie Sprunger, board member, and myself, Chair Frank, chair. The Department of Planning staff present is Joe Vunis, Director of Planning, Travis Newberry, Senior Planner, Robin Keefe, Planner. City Attorney John Young and Court Reporter Courtney Talman are also present. I'd also like to welcome Dave Bertolino. He will be our new alternate member at the end there. He is a former council member of 11 years and has graciously decided to continue to serve the City of Wildwood as an alternate member. So thank you, Dave. First, I offer into the record the affidavit of publication pertaining to today's meeting, September 21st, 2023. And take official notice of the zoning ordinance of the City of Wildwood, including Chapter 400, Article 2, authorizing and establishing the Board of Adjustment's powers and duties. Now, let me explain the hearing procedure. Please be aware the information I'm about to describe is also provided on the Board of Adjustment public hearing procedure handout, which was available online prior and up to tonight's meeting. This hearing is informal in its nature. However, the meeting's proceedings will be recorded by a reporter for future transcription if needed. The petitions are called in the order listed on the agenda. As the petitioner is called, I will ask a Department of Planning staff member to read each request into the record. Thereafter, the Department of Planning will have opening remarks and a brief slide presentation. Then the petitioner or his or her representative will be asked to state their name, address, be sworn in by the court reporter, make a brief presentation to the board explaining the nature of the requested variance, and present such evidence and witness testimony that may evidence the practical difficulties or unnecessary hardship that warrant the variance. The board will only consider the unique character of the property to determine whether the warrant of granting of a variance. Board members may ask questions to clarify the facts in the petitioner's presentation. When the board is satisfied with the material presented by the petitioner, the chair will then ask if there's anyone present or online who would like to speak in favor or opposition to the requested variance. Each speaker will be asked to provide their name and address, be sworn in, and then provide their evidence or oral testimony. Procedurally, the petitioner may request a continuance at any time during the hearing prior to a call for the vote in order to bring in additional evidence or testimony. The board may also continue the proceedings. After the submission of testimony and evidence from all interested parties, the board will ask a staff person to provide the Department of Planning's report on this matter. If requested by any member of the board, the petitioner or individual that is participating in person or online. Once all witnesses have been heard, the chair will call for a motion to grant or deny with or without conditions. The board will then vote. At that time, the presentation of evidence relating to the petition is concluded and no further evidence will be permitted. The board may make a decision today. Four members of the board must vote in favor of the variance for it to be approved. If a variance is approved, the petitioner has 6 months to obtain the necessary permits or establish the use, or it will expire. If the board's decision is unfavorable, the petitioner has the right of appeal to the St. Louis County Circuit Court. This appeal must be done within 30 days of the decision. Mr. Newberry, any questions at this time?
Mr. Chair, yes, from me. I'm having a little trouble with the YouTube.
Okay.
So you'll just give me a moment. See if I can work something out here. Okay, we're live. Thanks for your patience. It's the first time that's happened for a long time. Thanks.
Outside of that, any other questions for the meeting?
No, sir. Thanks.
At this time, the meeting will proceed. Will the department staff please read the first request into the record, which will then be followed by a brief slide presentation.
Mr. Chair, and members of the board, the first item on tonight's docket is BA 19-23, Robert Kelly, 2531 Etherton Road, Wildwood, Missouri, 63040. Requests an exception to the business signs attached to wall for the purpose of maintaining a new business sign attached to the wall of the building located upon the property at 16929 Manchester Road, locator number 24V 540020, near Acres, Lot 2, Wildwood Town Center, which would thereby authorize it to be retained without individually pinned on lettering as required by the Wildwood zoning ordinance. The size and height associated with this sign is identical to the previous sign at this location. These sign requirements are stipulated in Chapter 415, 420, sign regulations of all C and M districts of the City of Wildwood zoning ordinance, Chapter 415.190, C8 Plan Commercial District Regulations of the City of Wildwood zoning ordinance, and C8 Plan Commercial District Ordinance 11,577, approved in 1984 by St. Louis County. This request is also to be reviewed by the Architectural Review Board at its September 14th, 2023 meeting, as required by Chapter 415, 400 Sign Regulations General. This particular property is located in Ward 8. And before having Ms. Keefe come forward with the slide presentation, the department would like to enter into the record the following items. Chapter 400, Article 2, Board of Adjustment of the City of Wildwood Municipal Code. Chapter 415 of the same City of Wildwood Municipal Code, the zoning ordinance. The file that has been developed and maintained by the Department of Planning relating to this particular request, and all contents contained therein, including the department's report with recommendation. And then finally, any testimony or other evidence offered tonight as part of this hearing. Thank you.
All right, good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. The first case this evening involves a property that is located within the Wildwood Town Center in the Near Acres subdivision, which is located in the historic Grover community of Wildwood. This area has over 150 years of commercial activity, and it also has a mix of signage types due to approvals over those years of two jurisdictions, including St. Louis County and then City of Wildwood in 1995 and thereafter. This part of Wildwood also has special significance, is that it is located along our historic Route 66 corridor that follows Old Manchester Road, where this business is located. This Wildwood is lucky to have an original alignment of this route from 1926 and 1932. This was Route 66. This business is in keeping with that theme in that it is Baldwin Sinclair Automotive. So it is an automotive related business, a vehicle service center and storage. It was built in 1959 and maintains kind of that historic feel of the Route 66 corridor. The property is zoned C8 planned commercial district, which was approved in 1984 by St. Louis County. So it's governed by that ordinance that was approved. So the subject to this variance is the sign that you now see before you. This business recently changed hands and the owner gave it a bit of a makeover, including this new sign, which is of the same type and dimensions as the old sign, which you can see pictured here. This request was also reviewed by the Architectural Review Board at its meeting last Thursday, September 14th. The board unanimously supported recommending approval for this board for the variance, with several members commenting that they appreciated that it continued to maintain that historic look and feel of Route 66, just that general character. This is the front of the building as it is today. Here we are looking northwest. Here we're looking southwest, and this is 3 French Hens. This is Old Manchester Road. Now we're looking across the street, looking south. And this is looking southeast and east. This is looking at the building northwest. And it should be noted that a similar sign variance was approved for the porch. And the variance specifically, just so you understand what it's regarding, is that our signage code requires individually pinned on lettering for signage. And since this is more of a flat sign, it is therefore outside what is required by the zoning code. But a similar variance was approved for the porch. And at the time, what was cited was the mix of signage types along the corridor, as well as just the historic nature of the building that in question. So with that, I bring my presentation to a close. If you have any questions, the department is here to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Real quick,
Yes,
Planner Keith. Is the sign already there?
the sign is presently there. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
At this time, will the petitioner please come forward, state his or her name, address, relation to the property, and we'll get you sworn in by the court reporter.
Hi, my name is Robert Kelly. My address 2531 Etherton Road. I'm the new owner of Ball and Sinclair. Just bought it from Mark and Don.
Just a moment, Mr. Kelly, we'll get you sworn
No.
in here.
Okay, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give in this cause will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Yeah, my name is Robert Kelly. Just bought the place from Mark and Don, just trying to make some upgrades to the building. Recently replaced the sign from the previous sign that was probably 40+ years old. I mean, just needed an upgrade. I mean, couldn't see the old sign really, so yeah, just trying to make some changes to the building, make it look a little nicer, and I hope you guys like the new sign.
Any questions from the board for Mr. Kelly? Mr. Morris?
Where'd you come up with the sign at Baldwin?
What was that?
I said, where'd you come up with that name Baldwin Automotive?
Oh, Ball and Sinclair. It was the
I know
previous
that
owners.
Old sign.
Yeah, we kept the same name.
Yeah.
It's been around. Any other questions? Any speakers in the audience that may want to speak in favor or opposition to this variance?
Mr. Chair, the department has not received any speaker cards regarding this item, and I don't see any hands up on Zoom.
Would anybody like to hear an oral presentation of the department's report? Good. Any other final comments from the department? Thank you, Mr. Kelly.
Yeah, thank you.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, the department is recommending approval, particularly given the support of the Architectural Review Board. You have that memorandum in your packet this evening. And given the city's policy, especially in recent years, for really preserving that historic look and feel along the Route 66 corridor, we think that this updated signage is just maintaining that look. Additionally, it should be noted that the Architectural Review Board was interested in exploring this from a bigger picture standpoint. And so in the near future, the department may be bringing this issue to the appropriate boards and commissions to discuss how we address our historic areas in regards to signage in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Any final comments from the board? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and close the proceeding for a vote. Can I have a motion to approve, a motion to deny, or approve with conditions?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I second. Thank you. Do a roll call. Mr. Morris, how do you vote?
Approved.
Mr. Lux?
Approve.
Mr. Van Nest?
Approve.
Mr. Sprunger?
Approve.
And I approve as well. Congratulations, your variance is approved. Thanks, Sean. Move right along to the second petition, please.
Thank you again, Mr. Chair. The next item on tonight's docket, BA 20-23, Tom Dillon, 943 Old Etherton Road, Wildwood, Missouri, 63038, care of Chris Matteo, Lombardo Homes, number 4 Research Park Drive, St. Charles, Missouri, 63304. Requests an exception to the minimum yard requirements general for the purpose of constructing a new single-family dwelling along with an attached garage upon the property located at 943 Old Etherton Road, locator number 21W540093, which would authorize a front yard setback distance of 20 feet in lieu of the required 50 feet. This request is contrary to the requirements of Chapter 415.090 NU Non-Urban Resident District Regulations of the City of Wildwood zoning ordinance. This particular property is located in Ward 3. And Mr. Chair, before Ms. Keefe provides the slide presentation, the department would again like to enter into the record the following items. Chapter 400, Article 2 of the City of Wildwood Municipal Code, the Board of Adjustment. Chapter 415 of the same City of Wildwood Municipal Code, the zoning ordinance. File that has been developed and maintained by the department regarding this particular request and all contents contained therein, including the department's report with recommendation. And then finally, any testimony or other evidence provided as part of tonight's hearing. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Our second case this evening involves a property located in northern Wildwood. And I am showing a slightly different map here this evening. This is actually a screenshot from our Wildwood Points of Interest map. Because the property is located along a segment of Old Etherton Road, which is an important historical route in the city of Wildwood. So there's a bit of a theme going on here tonight. This route connected the ferry terminal on the Missouri River to Manchester Road. But in the 1930s, segments of Old Etherton were realigned to Highway 109. This portion of Old Etherton, so there's actually like 3 different segments shown here, but the one that we are actually looking at is the one that I'm circling with my pointer. And also Senior Newberry is pointing at with his cursor. This northern segment of Old Etherton Road crosses over a 1-lane bridge near the Essen family burial ground. And then the southern terminus of it is St. Paul's Lutheran Church and Cemetery, just to give you a sense of where it is. And then this is an aerial shot. The property, this is a triangular lot, 4.2 acres in size. It has quite a bit of frontage, 913 feet along Old Etherton Road. Presently occupying the property in its southeastern corner is a 2-story single-family dwelling that was built in 1929. There is also a barn on the property, 3,600 square feet in area, and that was built in 1950. The subject lot is grassy turf area at its more southeastern portion of it. That's where it's most level. And that's where the existing dwelling is located as well as the barn. The rest of it is wooded with varied topography. It does have an overall relief of 84 feet. And then there is a pond here in that southwestern corner. The petitioner this evening is proposing to build a new single-family dwelling on the lot. So what you're looking at is a site plan. The new single-family dwelling is positioned in between an existing septic field, yes. And then the barn. The single-family dwelling currently in existence is in this corner here. It should be noted, and you can see looking at it. So the petitioner is requiring a 20-foot setback from the road in lieu of 50 feet, which is required by the non-urban residence district of which this property is zoned. But it should be noted that the front of the dwelling, the primary portion of it, is aligned roughly with the existing barn. And it is the garage that protrudes to that 20-foot setback line. This is the front and rear elevations of the proposed home. And these are the side elevations for it. Here we are on the lot, and this is the proposed location for the new home between the barn and the septic field area. We're looking west. This is looking northwest from the perspective of standing at the existing dwelling and looking out over the lot. This is looking northwest at that existing single-family dwelling. This is Old Otherton Road looking southeast. This is across the street looking northeast. This is looking northwest at Old Otherton Road. This is looking northwest. Southwest at the barn. Again, this is the location of the proposed dwelling, now that you have some perspective around it. And this is just a little further back in that same location. This is looking from the proposed home site area to the existing dwelling. And this is looking southeast. And then this is just that septic field area. And then that's across the street from the proposed home site. There have been some public comments regarding this request, two opposed, including one next door neighbor. And there are no variance requests in the surrounding area that are similar to what's being requested of you now. That concludes my presentation. The department is available for questions if you have them. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Keefe. At this time, will the petitioner please come forward, state his or her name, address, relation to the property, and be sworn in by the court reporter?
Good evening. My name is Chris Matteo. I'm with Lombardo Homes. Our address is at number 4 Research Park Drive in St. Charles, Missouri.
We'll get you, and you're the builder.
Yes.
Okay.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give in this cause will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Mr. Matei, if you could please explain the nature of the request or hardship or practical difficulty necessitating the variance.
Sure. Thank you, members of the board. I appreciate your time. So as I said before, I'm with Lombardo Homes. Mr. Dillon, who is here tonight as the property owner, has contracted with us to build a new residence on the property. The reason and the nature of the request is, if you look at the topography of the site and on the site plan, you can see the proposed grade lines that are in the rear of the home. Those would be the proposed in order to make, just as it is now at the 20-foot setback. We set it up this way so that we could minimize the amount of clearing into the tree area and also to minimize the cost of going down that hill. If you set the house at the building setback line, the 50 feet, that area would go significantly down. A lot more trees would have to be cleared. Would be a lot more land disturbance if we had to do that, as well as significant cost that would be borne by, Mr. Dillon in terms of the foundation getting significantly taller. Just additional things would have to be done to basically keep the house in place and keep it from sliding down the hill. So where it's at right now is the most logical and most suitable from a constructability standpoint to place the home. We tried to utilize the existing culvert that's out there on the road where the driveway is to minimize, additional disruption out there along the road. It would be noted that it is a single lane road through there, as Ms. Keefe stated before, and actually the front of the building or the home, the garage, will be approximately 40 feet off of that road at the 20-foot setback. So as I said, the nature is to put it in the place that's the most in terms of most accessible in terms of constructability and the least cost. It is a very significant site, although it's flat. And when you saw in the pictures there, where the rear of the home is, it does go down significantly and very quickly at that point in time. So that's the nature of it. And one quick thing, the proposed septic area to the left is the new field. The existing field is to the right between the barn and the existing home. The barn is going to be kept. I'm available for any questions.
You said the barn is going to be kept. So what is the original, is the residence going to be torn down?
That's part of the secondary variance too, but the existing residence will be torn down after construction is what we're proposing.
You know where the corner, or does the department know where the corner is now of that residence? I looked awfully close as well. Of the current.
I'm not sure exactly what that distance is, but it is a legally non-conforming structure to the setback.
It's pretty much right on the property line.
Yeah.
It's not over a foot, but the intent is to take the existing residence down after construction.
That's right. I did read that. Any initial questions for Mr. Mateo?
Just a real quick one. Did you explore any alternative layouts or plans?
We did.
That would keep you in compliance?
We did. We explored it at the 50-foot setback. We explored it at a 40-foot, 30-foot. We looked at every possible combination to try and make it work. And the engineers came up with this. They were in favor of this as being the most buildable way to do it. But we did look at that.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Mateo? Okay. At this time, we'll open up to any speakers in the audience that may want to speak in favor or opposition to the request.
Mr. Chair, I hope this is not out of order, but Mr. Dillon has turned in a speaker card of the property owner.
Absolutely. Mr. Dillon, please come forward. You could please state your name, address, relation to the property, and then we'll get you sworn in as well, Mr. Dillon.
Tom Dillon. I live at 16519 Walnut Rail Road, Chesterfield, and
Relation to this property as the owner.
I am the legal guardian for the man who lives at this address, and I am the owner of the property for him.
We'll get you sworn in here, Mr. Dillon.
Pardon?
We'll get you sworn in.
Okay.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give in this cause will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Please proceed.
I would like to just say a few words in context for this whole thing. As this nice young lady pointed out, the property is 94 years old, where he is currently residing, and although everything works fine, I'm leery that something is going to break. So we thought we would build a new house for him and essentially tear down the old one when the new one is ready. As far as the complaint from the neighbors, when he first moved in, they had some teenage boys who were just hellions for him. As I say, he's disabled, and they were just not nice people to him. And we had to call the police on them several times. I'm not sure why they're objecting to a new building, but I just wanted you to have some context on that.
Sure. Any questions for Mr. Dillon? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Newberry, any additional speakers in the audience or online that want to speak in favor or opposition to this request?
The department has not received any speaker cards and I do not see any hands up on Zoom.
No.
Thank you.
Anybody like to hear an oral presentation of the department's report? Seeing none, any final comments from Department of Planning?
The department is supporting this variance request. There are some topographical challenges associated with this lot. And it generally is not going to, I guess generally it maintains the existing character of this of the road. There are several other structures along it that are also at closer setbacks given the time that these buildings were built along it. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Any final comments from the board?
It seems that there's some concern about the timing of tearing down the old house as after the new house is built and the old house will be abandoned, I presume. How long will that be standing, or will that be, we don't want to become an eyesore?
I imagine that'll be the next.
Is that on the
Variance.
next variance?
Yeah,
Okay.
Yes, Mr. Van Ness, that is the
Yes.
next
I'm a
variance
step
request.
ahead.
So is I, it's okay. Any other questions pertaining to this variance? At this time, we will close the proceeding for a vote. May I have a vote or a motion to approve, a motion to deny, or a motion to approve with conditions?
I'll make a motion to approve the request.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. We have a motion to approve the variance. Mr. Morris, how do you vote?
Approve.
Mr. Lux? Approve. Mr. Van Nest?
Approve.
Mr. Sprunger?
Approve.
And I approve as well. Congratulations. The variance is approved. Move right to the third request, please.
Again, thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair and members of the board, the third item on tonight's docket and the second relating to this particular property is BA 21-23, Tom Dillon, 943 Old Etherton Road, Wildwood, Missouri, 63038, care of Chris Matteo, Lombardo Homes, 4 Research Park Drive, St. Charles, Missouri, 63304. Request an exception to the miscellaneous regulations of the zoning ordinance, which states no accessory land use or development shall be established on a lot until a primary activity or structure is in place on the same property for the purpose of maintaining a permanent accessory dwelling without the first establishment of the primary activity or structure upon it, with said dwelling being located at 943 Old Etherton Road, locator number 21W 540093, thereby authorizing its use throughout the construction of the new single-family dwelling. The accessory dwelling is to be utilized by a family member as a mother-in-law unit to the primary single-family dwelling. This request is contrary to the requirements of Chapter 415.380 miscellaneous regulations and Chapter 415.090 NU non-urban resident district regulations of the City of Wildwood zoning ordinance. This particular property is located in Ward 3. It is my understanding this particular item has been withdrawn. Next one. Okay. And again, as we've done in the past, the department, before proceeding with the slide presentation by Ms. Keefe, would like to introduce into the record the following items. Chapter 400, Article 2 of the City of Wildwood Municipal Code, the Board of Adjustment. Chapter 415 of the same City of Wildwood Municipal Code, the zoning ordinance. The file that has been developed and maintained by the department regarding this request and all contents contained therein, including the department's report with recommendation. And then finally, any testimony or evidence that's provided as part of tonight's hearing. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Chair, members of the board, we are at that same property, so I'm not going to put it in context for you. But as noted, the existing dwelling on the lot was built in 1929, and therefore it's located in the Wildwood Historic Building Inventory. However, it was noted at the time the building was surveyed that there is low historical integrity associated with it, even though it is in good condition currently. There is a family member that is currently living in this existing dwelling. Again, I just want to point out where the existing dwelling is in regards to the new construction that's proposed. And it should be noted that the existing dwelling is, as I noted before, legally non-conforming in regards to setbacks in the non-urban zoning district, and that's due to its age. This is looking at that dwelling northwest. This is looking at the side of it, looking south. This is looking at the existing dwelling from the proposed home site. This is the rear of that dwelling looking east. And that is looking southwest at the other side of it. And then that's looking west at the front of it. The department has received one comment regarding this request. It was not in support or opposed. The neighbor simply indicated that they wanted a clear timeline and outcome for the building. As noted by the petitioner, that desires to demolish it upon construction of the new dwelling. And thus ends my presentation. The department is available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Keefe. At this time, will the petitioner please come forward, state his or her name again? And we'll get you sworn in again. Do we have to swear him again on this variance, or?
Just so there's a clear record, I would recommend it.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So yeah, go ahead.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Chris Matteo. I'm with Lombardo Homes. I'm here representing Mr. Dillon on this matter.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give in this cause will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Please proceed.
So members of the board here discussed that the variance we're requesting is that the home remained occupied during construction. I talked to Mr. Dillon regarding the concerns of time to tear it down afterwards. He indicated that he would be okay with tearing it down within 6 months of the completion of the new home. Obviously, weather dependent and timing of labor. If you have any questions, I think Mr. Dillon previously answered.
Questions regarding the tear down of the structure?
Oh, I knew I read it somewhere.
What's the expected construction time on the primary?
I believe we have it slated to start in December, and it takes about 9 to 10 months to complete a new home.
Total months or so?
Yes, correct. Yeah, and the home will be gone.
Is there any rationale for the 6 months? Because I know you can take a house down in a hurry.
Oh, you can tear a house down in a week.
Yeah, exactly. So why are we waiting for 6 months?
Just in terms of Mr. Dillon, that was just we talked about just to give us time to make sure we can line up contractors, things like that. We could make it shorter, but I just want to make sure timing of year, labor, we want to give ourselves enough time to actually do it and do it adequately.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
I believe we can, if we prove with conditions, we could specify a time as a condition.
At this time, any speakers in the audience that may want to speak in favor or opposition to the request? Come on up again, Mr. Dillon.
Tom Dillon, do you want the address again?
Please.
16519 Walnut Rail Road, Chesterfield, Missouri.
Get you sworn in.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give in this cause will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Just to add a little context to the 6 months. I'm not sure how all this works. First time I've ever tried to have a house built. And while I don't think it'll take that long, I didn't want to get in any trouble by saying it would take us 1 month and then it goes longer and I'm in some kind of trouble. So that's it. Thanks.
Anybody in favor of hearing the oral presentation of the department's report? Seeing none. Any final comments from the department?
Mr. Chair, members of the board, the Department of Planning is supporting this variance request. However, we do request of this board that if this variance is approved, that the variance expire in 18 months, so that there's a clear timeline of when things need to happen. And also upon issuance of an occupancy permit, the existing single-family dwelling is to be demolished. Now, there is a bit of a process associated with demolishing the dwelling, just full disclosure, that because of its age, it is 1929. The Historic Preservation Commission will need to conduct a site visit and catalog the building before it is demolished. So I just wanted to give you that sense of that there would be a process a little bit associated with demolishing it. Thank you.
Excuse me, so does the department recommend supporting the 6-month time after occupancy permit to demolish the building?
That is a question for the director.
Mr. Spawner, what I would say is the construction component starting in December, suffice to say, we would anticipate that it's going to take a little longer than what was just provided to you in terms of a response to your question. So we think the 18-month period is reasonable. That gives the builder and the property owner adequate time if there are unanticipated delays or problems with the weather. And certainly from our perspective, we'll keep track of the time frame. And as Ms. Keefe mentioned, we'll have to do our inspection for historic preservation purposes. And then also just the process to obtain the demolition permits. All utilities have to be disconnected. There has to be an asbestos inspection, a mold inspection, lead paint inspection. So all in all, it takes a little bit of time and there's just a lot of parts and all the parts have to move pretty reasonably together if we're going to beat that 18-month period, in my opinion.
Yeah, it just seems like it would make sense to tie the demolition of the existing structure to when the building is built and they have occupancy. I mean, I have 2 new neighbors. Their houses were supposed to be built within a certain time period too, and it just like got blown totally out of the water. So at any rate, I understand 18 months seems like it should work for both purposes. I'm just wondering if it would be a little better just to tie the demolition to the completion of the building, but just a question, you know.
Well, in terms of the occupancy permit process, if the occupancy permit, the final is issued for the new dwelling and we tie the occupancy to the demolition, that means somebody's got to move out probably before they can move in, so to speak, if you understand what I'm saying. Because if the demolition has to occur before occupancy and the occupancy is issued, then it has to start before the final occupancy is actually authorized.
Yeah, I'm sorry, maybe I said that wrong. I was thinking more the other way. Once the occupancy permit is granted, then they're able to move in, correct?
Yes,
Okay, yeah. So then what if we start the 6-month clock or the 3-month clock or whatever the clock is at that point? That way, we don't have to worry about when the completion of the primary residence occurs.
They're still gonna need the variance.
What's that?
They're still gonna need the variance to be in this dwelling that whole time, though. The variance still is needed.
Correct, but we're talking about putting contingencies right on the variance, so. Maybe, yeah, am I confused here a little bit?
No, I see what you're
Okay.
saying, but
again, the code basically states you can't have two single-family dwellings on a single lot. That's the first hurdle, so to speak.
Mhm.
And we, as the city through the Board of Adjustment, have authorized retention of the existing residents to accommodate the construction of a new residence. The rationales being is you're avoiding making people move twice.
Sure.
They're there on site to provide the security. And
Perfect,
just
yeah.
from a common sense standpoint, we think we can manage it. We've not had an issue in the past with the demolition proceeding forward and being completed. So from that perspective, the 18 months from the effective date of the variance till the completion of the new home and then demolition seems to be the timeframe that's worked in the past. That's why we've gone back.
Okay, thank you.
Is that 18 months stated or is that something we have to state?
It's part of the recommendation report that we've prepared for.
Oh, so if we say approve per the recommendation report,
You'll
that
capture
includes the
it.
18 months.
You'll capture it all. Yes, sir.
any other final questions or comments from the board?
Mr. Chairman, if I could make one recommendation in terms of the 18-month recommendation, while it is 18 months from the effective date, I do want to clarify because I don't want it to expire after 18 months if the house is built, that I think the condition is it completion of construction or commencement of construction and diligently pursued? Or is it issuance of an occupancy permit?
Started here. So as written in the report, the department recommends the Board of Adjustment approve the requested variance as submitted by the petitioner. The variance, given its temporary nature, will expire in 18 months after its effective date, which would then begin upon approval of it if supported by the Board of Adjustment. Upon issuance of the occupancy for the new residence, the existing dwelling must be demolished.
Okay, forgive me, I was thinking about the prior variance for the 18 months, so you're good.
So this variance would start tonight if we approve. The 18 months would start tonight.
Yes.
And if he's going to have it done in 9 months from December, seems like it should be time to get everything done.
Certainly, if you think additional time is warranted, that's a decision the board can make as part of any motion. As I say, this is kind of what we've done in the past and it's seemed to work. And certainly if we run into a problem, the Board of Adjustment is available again, just to consider an amendment or a modification if necessary.
Okay, so just to narrow down the wording to make sure that we make a proper proposal then. So if it was worded in such a way that the variance was granted for 18 months on the condition that within 6 months of issuance of the occupancy permit, demolition is completed, would that satisfy everyone's concerns?
It's probably better stated than what we worded our recommendation. So maybe that's the approach that's most effective. Thank you.
Can you repeat?
We'll do that.
To simplify, though, we can just say per the Florida Planning Department's recommendation. And that covers it, unless you want to be more specific.
Any other final comments, questions for the department? This time we will close the proceeding for a vote. Can I have a vote or a motion to approve, deny, or approve with conditions?
All right, so I will make a motion to approve for a period of 18 months, given the condition that within 6 months of the issuance of the occupancy permit, that the demolition of the existing residence will be completed.
Do we have a second to that motion with the stated conditions?
I will second that.
Thank you. Mr. Morris, how do you vote?
Approve.
Mr. Lux,
Approve.
Mr. Van Nest,
Approve.
Mr. Sprunger,
Approve.
and I approve as well with the stated conditions. Congratulations, your variance is approved as stated. Thank you. Please proceed.
Mr. Chair, Board of Adjustment Case 24-23, Tom Dillon, 943 Old Etherton Road, Wildwood, Missouri, 63038, care of Chris Matteo. Lombardo Homes, number 4 Research Park Drive, St. Charles, Missouri, 63304, was withdrawn before tonight's meeting.
Okay.
The next item on the docket tonight is BA 22-23, Karen and Stephen Bressler, 3124 Woods Road, Wildwood, Missouri, 63038. Request an exception to the minimum lot area requirements for the purpose of maintaining the presence of fowl upon the property located at 1324 Woods Road, locator number 25V 140041, McGinnis Acres, Lot 2, which would authorize a 3-acre minimum lot area for a permitted farm use in lieu of a 5-acre minimum lot area requirement. Note, petitioner owns 2 contiguous lots, which together are greater than 6 acres in area. Accompanying this request is an application for the reduction in the front yard setback distance for a swing set and fence enclosure from the 50-foot required distance to no less than 10 feet from Woods Road. Request is contrary to the requirements of chapter 415.090 NU non-urban resident district regulations of the city of Wildwood zoning ordinance. And this particular property is located in Ward 6. As with the other cases, the department, before presenting the slide presentation, would like to enter into the record the following items. Chapter 400, Article 2, the Board of Adjustment of the City of Wildwood Municipal Code. Chapter 415, the zoning ordinance of the same City of Wildwood Municipal Code. The file that has been developed and maintained by the department for this particular request and all contents contained therein, including the department's report with recommendation. And then finally, any testimony or evidence as provided as part of tonight's hearing. And with the assistance of Mr. Newberry, I will be doing the slides as well. The first slide is the aerial photograph of the properties. The properties are shown by the blue line, and as you can see, there are 2 that are identified. The southernmost, or the one closest to Highway 109, is the subject tract of land. That particular tract of land has the existing single-family dwelling. The aerial photograph shows Woods Road as well as Highway 109, and then the intersection of those 2 streets. This aerial photograph, again, is just a larger scale to give you more perspective. Woods Road is the public street, and that's identified on the aerial photograph, and then the lot itself. The existing single-family dwelling is located upon this lot, and the adjoining 3-acre tract to the north, so to speak, is vacant. The next series of photographs are just of the general area, including Woods Road. This is at the northernmost portion of the 2 lots that form the overall 6-acre site. And this is looking toward the west-southwest. Again, Woods Road is a city-maintained street. And this is just a little further to the west on Woods Road, now looking back to the east from the area where the original photograph was shown. And again, the site is on the right-hand side of the photograph. This is just kind of traveling west on Woods Road, kind of going more toward now the 3-acre subject tract of land, and a new fence kind of demarks that location that's being installed. And kind of just on the property itself, kind of looking at the grassy area between Woods Road and a drainage feature that exists on the property and the level nature of it. In the shadows by the tree line, the swing set is located. This is at the access point into the subject tract of land, the 3-acre site. This is looking now to the east on Woods Road. And then you get a general perspective of the surrounding properties. All are heavily wooded, and in most instances, the homes are up on the hillside, given the nature of the drainage tributary and the frequent unfortunate flooding of Woods Road. This is looking from Woods Road to the south onto the property, the subject property, and this is the driveway that accesses the existing single-family dwelling. And this is the drainage tributary, generally in the vicinity again of the entry area. This is a view to the southwest. The enclosure is shown there again. It is south of the drainage feature, but in close proximity. And again, you can see just the fencing associated with some of the area. The last two photographs, this is at what I would consider the southwesternmost portion of the property. On the right-hand side of the screen is the driveway to the adjoining property. Again, the home is up on the hillside, so to speak. And then the next photograph is the property across the street or opposite the subject 3-acre tract of land. You can see the new fence construction, Woods Road, utility corridor, and then the house itself. And then we did receive public comment relative to this request. As you can see, we received 2 favorable and then 1 that was opposed. The opposition obviously is in close proximity, as well as one of those that were supportive. And if there are any questions for the department, Ms. Keefe, Mr. Newberry, Mr. Young, or I would be glad to try to answer them at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Munoz. Questions?
Question about the code. Saw that the request from the applicant was for chicken. Recommendation is only. Is there a limitation, the other kinds of fowl? Make sure we get the wording.
There are chickens and roosters that are to be removed based upon a conversation I had with the petitioner. There is, I believe, 1 turkey that I've seen on 2 site visits to the property, and I believe there are a few ducks as well. The complaint the department received relative to this request focused on the number of chickens and the chickens and roosters themselves. So from that perspective, we identified that first. Thank you. Thank you.
Does that mean the department doesn't care about the duck and the turkey and the ducks?
Well, it's a very good question. All of it is considered domestic animals, and that is inclusive of cattle, pigs, ducks, chickens, etc. The minimum 5 acres is necessary. So from the perspective of the department, it was somewhat inclusive of all. Well, for the most part, we called it fowl.
Any
Thank
other
you.
questions, comments? Okay. At this time, will the petitioner please come forward, state his or her name, address, relation to the property, and we'll get you sworn in by the reporter.
My name is Karen Bressler. I'm ready to swear in.
Your address in relation to the property?
Okay, it's 3124 Woods Road, Wildwood, Missouri, 63038.
Mr. President, we'll get you sworn in.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give in this cause would be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Ms. President. Sorry, please. Sorry, Courtney. If you could please explain the nature of the request and the hardship or practical difficulty necessitating the variance.
Well, my husband and I wanted to have a farm after he retired, and we moved into this beautiful farmhouse. And then my husband had a very bad fall, ended up in the hospital a lot. And now he's been in the hospital many times and we're trying to help him to walk and help him to talk, and he's not working. So we do have 6 acres, and it's my joy, my daughter's joy, just to have some chickens, some chicks. It's just something that brings us joy, and it brings my husband joy. And I don't want to cause any problems with the neighbors. I love my neighbors. I want them happy. I know there was someone was complaining about the rooster crowing, but I think he moved away. But I called all over the United States because I heard some veterinarians do this crow reduction surgery. And I finally found one just about 3 weeks ago. I found a veterinarian who would do a crow reduction surgery, but then I found out that the neighbor that didn't like the rooster crowing moved away, and the other people have said, "Oh, it's so nice to hear the sounds of nature." But if that's a problem, I love my neighbors, I want my neighbors happy, but I also would like to I have 6 acres. There is like that when we bought the property, it came in 2 parcels. They had subdivided it, but if you look at it, it's all one property. I don't know why in the world they would subdivide that property. It's over 6 acres, and need 5 to have animals. And I just want my chickens. The ducks are kind of wild. They've, I guess, mated with, there's wild ducks, and they can go where they want to. But and we have 1 turkey, and I nursed it back to health. It's been attacked by raccoons, and so I'm close to my animals. But the hardship is that it's to combine the properties. It's going to cost about $5,000. And that's a lot for us right now because we're retired. And so I'm requesting that you allow me to have animals on my property, even though it is technically 2 parcels, but it's really 1 parcel. When you look, I don't know how they even gave approval back then to subdivide the property. I swear, I'm not planning to sell that other part. It's all part. We have the barn on the other side. You see, the barn is on the other part, the other parcel. We use it all. Anyway, that's my request. Thank you.
That's Resler.
Real quick question for you. Are your chickens and so forth, are they free range or are they?
Yes.
Any other questions for petitioner? Seeing none. Any speakers in the audience that may want to speak in favor or opposition to this variance?
Before she goes, though, maybe the department can help us a little bit here, because there's the chicken or the fowl thing. But then there's this swing set and fence thing. Are we dealing with both of these things at the same time, or what? Help me understand that.
Oh, the swing set, we measured, it's 65 feet. So it's in the clear. And the fence enclosure is about 85 feet. I don't know but it's about 80 feet because it's 20 feet further.
So you're not requesting a variance for your swing set?
Oh, just
or the fence?
That's my son. Because we can withdraw that because they're in the compliance.
Okay, so that's not part of this variance request. Okay, thanks for that clarification.
No speakers in the audience?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair. I do have 2 speaker cards.
Oh, you do?
Mr. Bressler.
All right. You please come forward, state your name, address, relation to the property, and we'll get you sworn in.
Thank you. My name is Isaac Bressler. I live at 109 Meadowlark Lane in St. Charles, Missouri, and I'm the son and attorney for my mother, Karen Bressler.
Get you sworn in here.
Okay, do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give in this cause will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I swear.
Thank you.
Please proceed, Mr. Mercer.
Thank you, council. I just want to thank the board for hearing my mom's petition. By way of a little background, my mom grew up in a farm in the mountains of north of Los Angeles and in a town called Ojai. It's kind of like, you know, the Wildwood of Los Angeles. And that's how she would like to end her life, her golden days living on a farm here. We certainly don't want to cause any troubles to our neighbors. We're happy to comply with, you know, whatever reasonable recommendations that the board has. I also do represent my mom on a charge right now with the Wildwood Municipal Court for this issue. So I have an interest in seeing some resolution so I can go talk to the prosecutor on that and hopefully get that resolved. And so I'm also available to field any questions in the future. And if there's any issues with that, I'm just happy to try to keep my mom out of trouble and let her enjoy her chickens. So thank you.
Fair enough. Thank you, Mr. Messer.
Mr. Chair, we have one additional speaker card, Ms. Bush.
Ms. Bush, if you could please state your name, address.
Patricia Bush, 3054 Woods Road.
And we'll get you sworn in.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give in this cause will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Please proceed.
I guess I need clarity on what is going on there. First, we're talking about a swing set. We live on a road that puts 4 foot of water, at least 4 foot. And I mean, we've been here before for this, that actually has gone down the road and washed the chickens away at one time. And dividing the property and having fowl and the one part of the property where the old barn is, it's very unkept. They have some peach trees in a fence there and the barn is another flood, it'll probably go. The fence, as you saw in the picture, the fence is laying back. There's debris this deep against it that has never been removed. I think the old fence finally, maybe somebody dodged a deer and knocked it down. It was ready to fall down anyway. That fence has been there. I had a fence like that as well. They went from there, the corner, all the way up to my house. And my fence has been gone for 15 years. But anyway, I just have a question of, you know, what kind of fowl and what we would really be bringing there. I realize she wants to be in the country and she wants to live there. That's fine. But I just want clarity on what's going to be there. I drive by there every day, so.
Anybody have any questions, comments for Ms. Bush?
So are you objecting to the petitioner's request to have some chickens and a duck or two and a turkey?
Well, they're in the back now. They were in the front yard before. And then we had a flood. And so they moved them up on the hill. Where's the manure going? I pay a guy $500 4 times a year to come and remove my manure for my horse. Where's the manure for the chickens? I do believe it was piled up at the kind of side of that pickup truck that you saw in the picture. You know, I mean, animals are messy.
So I'm sorry,
Am I opposing it? I want clarity on it.
You want
Yes.
clarity on it?
Yeah, I guess I am opposing it. Unless there's a clearer picture of what's going to be there. I mean, just before this, they put up a brand new fence just so it would look good. But it's been awful looking down there.
Okay, so I think just to, and clarity is a fair question. What I understand is there are, I'm doing this from memory, so it's a little risky, but I think the this, or the department is suggesting a certain number of chickens, no roosters. I don't know about the ducks and the turkey, but are there like 8 chickens? Am I remembering that right? Okay, so from a clarity perspective, I think the variance that the department is suggesting is that they can have 8 chickens, no roosters.
And I really,
How do you
you know,
feel?
I don't really care about the rooster crowing. I kind of like it, to tell you the truth, but I know my neighbor hates it.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not opposed to her having chickens. That's not it's the property being kept. As you saw in some of the pictures, that's my problem. That's my issue here. You
So
know,
your concern is how the property looks. It's not, it has nothing to do with whether she has chickens.
no,
Okay,
the chickens are,
thank you.
everybody has chickens today. You know, not everybody,
Not
but
me.
a lot of people have chickens today. And, you know,
The
and
price of eggs,
if she
maybe I'll
wants
get
to
some
make her
chicken.
dream come true, that's fine.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Any other speaker cards in
No,
the
sir.
audience?
No, sir.
Questions?
Thanks.
Would anybody like to hear a oral presentation of the department's report? Seeing none, any final comments from the Department of Planning?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair and members of the board, just to kind of give you a bit of context. This particular item was brought to the attention of the city by an individual that made a complaint about the roosters and the noise it was creating at odd hours during the day. The complaint was investigated by code enforcement here with the Department of Planning, and ultimately a warning notice was sent. And then with no response, a summons was issued, which Mrs. Bressler's son mentioned in his presentation. From that perspective, the department's following the process it has to address issues relating to zoning violations. In visiting with Ms. Bressler and her other son, we spent a great deal of time just talking about what she would like to accomplish if she came before the Board of Adjustment. For the most part, it was described to me that at that time, there were roosters, that her intent was to remove the roosters, given the concerns by at least one neighbor, if not more. I believe it was 6 chickens at the time. And then again, there were several ducks and the 1 turkey. And so from the perspective of the department, it prepared its report, recognizing that in Wildwood, particularly the rural areas, there are a number of different types of animals that are maintained on the properties. We allow horses on 3 acres as just an accessory use, so to speak. We make no differentiation on number or anything along those lines. A lot of people have cattle. It helps with their assessments and their property taxes because agricultural ground is levied at a much lower rate than residential and commercial. And so it's typical. It's not atypical in Wildwood. And that's why, from the department's perspective, it is supporting the variance. And in that same context, Ms. Bressler owns 2 properties. There is a line that separates them, but from the perspective of anybody driving by or visiting the property, it's 6 acres. It's not 2 3-acre plus lot. And so from that perspective, the department actually encouraged her not to boundary adjust and consolidate in this particular instance, because just didn't seem to make a lot of sense. So our recommendation is based upon the site visit and conversations I had with Ms. Bressler, and that is to authorize the variance to allow the chickens on the 3-acre lot where they habitate now. And the support for the roosters was not, again, it was based upon the fact that she said she was going to remove them. And in terms of the ducks and turkey, we collectively called that the fowl. And from the perspective of the department, if the board would want to retain them as part of it, that's fine. But the recommendation as presented tonight is no more than 8 chickens on the property with no roosters. Is there any questions? We'd be glad to try to answer them.
I mean, I don't want to drag this out, but can we just include all of the fowl and some number with no, I mean, I don't want to, I wouldn't want the board to say approve for the chickens and then we get a complaint about a duck and a turkey. I mean, this is crazy, but can we just do that?
Certainly, that's within the purview of the board unless Mr. Young advises otherwise, and I'll certainly always defer to the city attorney on these matters. But we know we have one turkey and I saw 4 ducks. So collectively it's an unlucky number, but no more than 13 fowl.
Just as a clarification question, if they went through the time and expense of removing the boundary and has it designated as a single parcel, that would create the minimum of 5. Would that entitle them to unlimited number of fowl, or what's the rule once you hit the minimum threshold?
Yes, in that case, there is no provision in the code to say that if you have 6 acres, you only have X amount of this, X amount of that. So in this particular instance, the city can exercise a little greater control and ensure the neighbors that there is that certainty or the component Ms. Bush talked about. Clarification.
Okay, and then I guess the final question would be would it be your recommendation to tie the variance to the condition that they simultaneously own both parcels so that if one is ever sold, then the variance would expire?
It was a key component in the department support. So yes, if the board would be willing, I think if the property is ever, if the 2 properties are not under the same ownership, then the variance would terminate.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I guess I'm against putting a number on ducks and turkeys. Because if the ducks have more ducks and have baby ducks, and then all of a sudden we say she can have 4 ducks and she's got 2 babies now, she's not in compliance. So I'd rather not say a number. I mean,
Well, I think
we're opening a
the-
can of worms. We do.
I think the thought, Jim, is that maybe we just say, you limit it to 15 fowl, and whether it's 1 chicken and 6, I mean, we don't care as long as, what you don't want is 5,000 chickens and ducks running around. She's not going to do that. But I mean, I think the idea of the limit of the number just applies to any combination of fowl. And that way there's a little protection for the neighbors, but yet it should provide Ms. Bresler what she's looking for. Right. So it seems like maybe we could just take care of it that way.
If I might, real quick,
Yes, please,
might
Mr. Bressler.
suggest that-
Come up to the microphone.
Yeah, Isaac Bressler again for the record. Maya suggests that if we're attaching a number, which I think is reasonable for all the discussions, that we say specify adult fowl, because if there is chicks, then we don't want that included. Does that make sense?
Go ahead, Ms. Bressler, please come up.
I want to thank all of you for hearing this cake. I really appreciate you guys. Thank you very much. Also, I want to thank you, Patty, for your concern. And I appreciate all that you do for our community, all the times you've come here, all the times you've stood up for, the city. I've heard so much about you from Isaac. And addressing your issues, I'm trying to address those things. I am trying to address the things that she's talking about. Taking care of my husband has been not easy because it's been 24/7. I do have 2 workmen on the property. We have applied for this fence and with the city, and we got approval about 3 months ago. We had a holdup on the on the order because we couldn't get the wood in. Finally got the wood in, and then my workman said, I'm worried that about the approval. I said, no, we have the approval. And so he went ahead. It's not like we were just trying to show nice for this. We've been trying to do this for a while. It's true, the barn needs to be and we had it painted. It seriously needs I have to get a contractor in to probably do some repairs for the barn. As far as that pile, that is not manure, don't worry.
Ms. President, if you could,
Okay, the
address
pile
that.
that's right next to the truck. That I got a year ago, and that is topsoil, which we have put into our garden, in our garden boxes. So that's not a manure pile. As far as the manure, these are free range chickens, and I store, when we clean out the little areas, I store it in totes, and then I put it in the garden. And so that's all there, it's all taken there. And as far as the flock size, I don't want, I like my chickens. I like that they're producing eggs. They're very healthy and they're real. This is true free range. It's not, where they just have like a door open and the chickens have been trained to stay in the building. So now we can call it free range. These are real, truly free range chickens. One of the neighbors across the street is on a special diet, has special medical conditions, and we as a trade for a snow blower, we're giving him 18 eggs a week. And my husband
sorry to
had,
interrupt you, Mr. President. If I can, I want to ask, so you're okay with the size of the flock? I'm sorry to interrupt you. I just wanted
I would
some
like,
clarification.
the whole thing is if they have chicks, which they've had chicks, but they're free range, and that chicks, when they're free range, I know if you know that they could have like 12 chicks, 15 chicks, but the next day it could be 5, and all that may actually come to maturity, maybe 1 or 2. So like if someone comes to my property and says, oh, you got 12 chicks, well, what's going to be tomorrow? We have
But
hawks, and we have hawks that
if
come
we-
down.
If we do the adults, that's okay. Your intention, I guess the question is, your intention is not to grow this in any considerably size at all. Is that fair?
No,
Okay.
I don't.
And then how about?
I mean, I think I would be comfortable if you'd say, I mean, I want to be able to, like, if 2 hens have chicks, then, okay, so that's 12 plus 12 is 24. I would say, if you're going to do a flock size, I would say no more than maybe, I would say 15 adults, 15 adults, and then,
The adults we've got covered. And then how about the stipulation regarding the
the
if
ducks.
ownership between the 2 properties changes, you're okay with this variance being void? Expired.
Yeah. If we
Okay.
sell the property, yes, absolutely. We're not planning to
Part
sell.
of the property.
Oh, we're not selling any part of the property. We're
Okay.
just, it's 6 acres. We're staying, it's over 6 acres. We're just gonna stay with the 6 acres. And
I think if you're okay with all the discussion we've had, Mrs. Breslin, I think we've got a pretty good idea of how this would be restated in the form of conditions.
thank
Is
you.
that good with you?
Yeah. And as far as the ducks, it says part of them are wild. So I just, the ducks are, that they can fly here, fly there. There's just, but we're taking care of the chickens. We say hello to the ducks. Sometimes they eat the chicken food, but anyway. Okay.
Okay, I think we're set. Did I offer the department's report oral presentation already? Any final comments from the board?
I just want to make sure the swing set and the fence is no longer on, we're only talking foul now. And we're only doing a variance for foul. I'm good.
Any final comments? Okay, At this time, we will close the proceeding for a vote. Can I have a motion to approve, a motion to deny, or a motion to approve with conditions?
All right, I will go ahead and make a motion to approve the variance for a flock of fowl excluding roosters for up to 15 total adults over the age of 24 weeks. Subject to the condition that both parcels be simultaneously owned.
Do we have a second to that? As
I'll
stated
second that.
conditions. Thank you, Mr. Sprunger. Mr. Morris, how do you vote?
Approve.
Mr. Lux,
Approve.
Mr. Van Ness,
Approve.
Mr. Sprunger,
Approve.
and I approve as well. Congratulations, your variance with the stated conditions is approved.
Mr. Chair, the last item tonight on the docket is BA 23-23 Matthew Bejoy, 2849 Darding Links Drive, O'Fallon, Missouri, 63368. Request an exception to the specific yard requirements and exceptions for the purpose of constructing a covered deck, sunroom, and stairway as attached accessory structures to a new single-family dwelling upon the property situated at 600 Highway 109. Locator number 20W 540092, thereby authorizing construction of them at a setback distance of 40 feet in lieu of the required 50 feet from the presently defined 100-year floodplain boundary. This request is contrary to the requirements of Chapter 415.070 FP Floodplain District Regulations and Chapter 415.090 NU Non-Urban Resident District Regulations of the City of Wildwood zoning ordinance. This particular property is located in Ward 1. Before Ms. Keefe comes forward to do the presentation of the slides, the department would like to enter into the record the following items. Chapter 400, Article 2 of the City of Wildwood Municipal Code, the Board of Adjustment. Chapter 415 of the same City of Wildwood Municipal Code, the zoning ordinance, the file that has been developed and maintained by the department relative to this particular request and all contents contained therein, including the department's report with recommendation. And then finally, any testimony or exhibits that are provided as part of tonight's hearing. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Unich.
All right, Mr. Chair, members of the board, our last case this evening concerns a property that is located in northern Wildwood. Thank you. It is where Highway 109 intersects with Babbler Park Drive at its northern terminus. This property is the result of a recent lot split that was recorded in May of this year. And this is the northern part of that split. Oops. Okay. The lot is 3.7 acres in size. It is zoned floodplain non-urban residence district. The southern border of the property, as it is now split, is Bonhomme Creek. This lot varies in topography. It descends generally from its northern portions down to the creek area. The overall relief of it is 24 feet. Most of the lot is grassy area, but there's more trees on the western portion of it. This is the map of the floodplain areas, and it's the most relevant to this case, which has to do with the City of Wildwood's floodplain setback. We do require that structures be placed 50 feet from the defined 100-year floodplain boundary. So the map you see this evening was generated by our assistant city engineer, And it shows the existing floodplain boundaries in relation to what is proposed in the near future by the federal emergency management agency, FEMA. So in the near future, the floodplain maps are going to be updated. And at that time, the floodplain actually is going to be greatly reduced to where this variance wouldn't be necessary. I'm not exactly sure why I'm seeing all of my slides twice, but there we go. This is the site plan submitted by the petitioner. They are proposing to build a new single-family dwelling upon this lot, as positioned here. The sunroom, stairway, and covered deck as a part of this new dwelling would be located in the floodplain setback area, but not in the floodplain itself. If once the new floodplain maps are adopted, these structures would no longer be in the floodplain setback. So this blue line represents the current floodplain setback line, and then this green line is what is the future setback line. This is Bonhomme Creek. This is Highway 109. This is the rear elevation of the dwelling, though I believe the petitioner provided you a very nice rendering of it earlier this evening. This is the right elevation. Sorry. Oh, that's right, because it's doing the this is looking northwest. This is Highway 109. This is Babbler Park Drive. This is across the street from the subject lot, looking southwest. And this is looking southeast on 109. This is the entrance to the property, looking east. And so this gives you an idea of the topography. We are looking northeast. This is looking more north on the property. This is going east again. This is looking south towards the creek. This is north on the western portion. Okay, this is standing up on the hill in the northern part of the property looking east. And here you can see a flat grassy area. And this is another perspective of that same area. This is that hill standing at the bottom of it. Here's the creek. This is looking east, and then this is looking west. This is looking up at that flat grassy field area from the creek area. And then this is heading back out so that we're looking north again, and then looking west. There have been no public comments submitted for this property. There was one previous variance requested, but it's not related to this variance this evening. So that concludes my presentation. If you have any questions, the department is available. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Keith. At this time, will the petitioner please come forward, state his or her name, address, relation to the property, and we'll get you sworn in by the court reporter.
Lauren Strutman, 16676 Old Chesterfield Road, 63017.
And your relationship to the property.
I'm the architect for the house. Just here to make a brief presentation.
Thank you.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give in this cause will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Please proceed, Ms. Trevor.
So, I believe Travis asked after each one of you, a 3D rendering, which I just want to explain, and my presentation will be very brief tonight. If you look at that rendering over towards the left side, there are three masonry columns that support an elevated deck, a sunroom, and a staircase. And the three columns will be made with steel posts surrounded by masonry. And those are the only things that are projecting into the floodplain setback, not the house. It's just these elevated deck and sunroom. And we have our client here, Matthew. He very much wants his deck and sunroom to face the beautiful creek and not face Highway 109. So that's why they're on that side of the home. It's a really beautiful view. And the primary explanation on this project tonight is going to come from Eric Beetmeyer, the civil engineer, who's going to talk to us about the floodplain next. And I'm just here to answer any questions on the house and point out that those are the only features on the house that we're asking for the variance for.
Thank you. Please state your name, address, relation to the property, and we'll get you sworn in as well.
Eric Vietmeyer, 10849 Indian Head Industrial Boulevard, Foles Engineering. We are the engineers of record for this project.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give in this cause will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
So as Ms. Strutman explained, what is projecting into this setback is just a few inches of covered deck and sunroom. But I would just give you some bare basic information as how that relates to the floodplain. Floodplain in this area is approximately 522 feet above sea level. The grade at these pillars, or the columns that Ms. Strutman was explaining, 5 feet above that water level. The basement floor itself is even 2.5 to 2 feet, depending on which end of the basement that you're looking at, above that flood level as well. So everything is above the high water mark that FEMA has established. And as was explained by staff, as soon as the maps are updated, this house wouldn't require the variance. We're just a few steps ahead of FEMA, if you would. So if there's any questions, I'm more than happy to answer.
Any questions for either
All right.
speaker?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any speakers in the audience that may want to speak in favor or oppose this?
No, sir, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Oral presentation of the department's report? No. Any final comments from the Department of Planning?
Mr. Chair, members of the board, the department is supporting this variance request. We did talk to the Department of Public Works as well, including our floodplain manager. Given that the floodplain maps are in the future to be adopted are going to reduce the floodplain outside the need of this variance. And given that the current extent of the floodplain on this property does present a certain hardship to building upon it, the department can support this variance request by what you saw earlier. Thank you.
Thank you. Any final comments or questions from the board? All right, this time we will close the proceeding for a vote. Can I have a motion to approve, a motion to deny, or a motion to approve with conditions?
I make a motion, we approve.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
A motion to approve. Mr. Morris, how do you vote?
Approved.
Mr. Lux?
I cannot hear Mr. Luck. I can't hear anything.
Sorry, I rejected, based on my understanding that there was a recommendation from the department that there be a condition for meeting the Department of Public Works requirements as part of the variance.
Yes, thank you. I mean, they would be required to meet their requirements regardless, but this gives that extra, given that we are approving this request in the floodplain setback. Thank you.
Mr. Young, I'm going to look to you. Do we continue with this, the vote here and then look to change it? Unless,
I think we need to
Mr.
complete the vote.
Yeah, let's
Yeah,
complete the
that's
vote. So I'm sorry. So Mr. Morris, you approved, correct?
Yeah.
Mr. Lux,
Denied.
you denied. Mr. Van Nest,
Approve.
Mr. Sprunger,
Approve.
and I approve as well. So that congratulations, your variance is approved.
Overruled on a technicality.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, if I could beg upon your time
Yes.
as well as the board. Just a reminder, Saturday, September 23rd is Celebrate Wildwood. It starts with the parade at 10 a.m. and goes till about 9:15, which will conclude with the fireworks. So we hope you all can come by for a bit of time and spend it here in downtown Wildwood Town Center. And to Mr. Bertolino, welcome aboard. We're glad to have you.
And if I may, two things actually. One, if you come by Celebrate Wildwood, make sure you come to the history book tent because the book has launched and you can get your brand new signed copy of it at the book tent, and I'll be there too. But secondly, I discussed it with our city attorney earlier this evening and appears that October might be a good month for training if you are available. So Mr. Chair, does that sound like a good date for you?
It does. That would be October 19th.
Yes, I
Okay.
believe so. It would. Yes. Right now, I just have one case for our next meeting,
So would that be after or before?
after the meeting,
After the meeting?
following the case. Yep.
Yeah, I think that works.
All right. Thank you.
Anything else? At this time, we will consider this meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, Courtney.
Thank you.
Thank you, Courtney.